In the gleaming heights of Dubai's financial district, Karim al-Rashid stood at his penthouse window, his reflection a stark reminder of the weight he carried. At 32, he was the heir to Tech Vision Arabia, one of the Middle East's most influential technology empires. The city lights below sparkled like the diamonds his mother used to wear, but tonight they offered no comfort. His phone buzzed again, another message from the board. Western investors were growing restless, and the crucial billion-dollar deal that would secure Tech Vision's future in the global market was hanging by a thread. Karim loosened his tie, a rare gesture of frustration in his otherwise perfectly controlled demeanor. "Mr. Al-Rashid," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board members are requesting an update on the Peterson Group situation." "Tell them I'll have an answer by morning," he replied, his voice maintaining its usual measured tone despite the chaos churning inside him. The latest feedback from the investors had been clear. They valued stability, tradition, and strong family ties. In their eyes, a 30-something bachelor CEO represented a risk. His advisors had been pushing him to present a more settled image, preferably with a wife by his side. The suggestion had seemed absurd at first, but with each passing day, the pressure mounted. As if on cue, his stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since morning. He reached for his phone and opened the delivery app, ordering from a local restaurant he'd never tried before. The estimated delivery time showed 20 minutes, enough time to review the latest projections. When the doorbell rang, Karim was deep in spreadsheets. He opened the door to find a young woman in a delivery uniform, her dark hair escaping from under her cap, and an expression that suggested she'd rather be anywhere else. "Your order, sir," she said, holding out the bag. Her accent was local, but there was something different about her demeanor, a refreshing lack of deference that caught him off guard. As she handed him the food, he noticed her hands trembling slightly. "Is everything all right?" She straightened her shoulders, pride evident in her stance. "Just tired. It's been a long day of delivering to penthouses while trying to figure out how to keep my mother's medical bills paid." The candid response stunned him. No one in his world spoke with such unfiltered honesty. Before he could stop himself, he asked, "What's your name?" "Amira Hassan," she replied, already turning to leave. "Wait." The word escaped his lips before he could process the idea forming in his mind. "I have a business proposition for you." Amira turned back, suspicion clear in her eyes. "I'm not interested in anything inappropriate." "Nothing like that," he assured her quickly. "I need someone to pose as my fiancé for an important business dinner. One evening, substantial compensation." Her laugh was sharp and incredulous. "You're joking, right?" "I never joke about business," Karim replied, his expression serious. $5,000 for one evening of your time." Amira's eyes widened, and he could see the internal struggle playing across her face. "Why me?" "Because you're real," he said simply. "And right now, that's exactly what I need." The silence stretched between them, filled with the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic below. Finally, Amira spoke, her voice careful but intrigued. "Tell me more about this dinner." Karim gestured for her to enter the penthouse. As she stepped inside, taking in the minimalist luxury of his home, he could see her mind working, calculating risks and possibilities. She perched on the edge of an expensive leather chair, her delivery bag still clutched in her hands like a shield. "The dinner is next week," he began, maintaining a professional distance. "It's with the Peterson Group, potential investors from America. Theirs are traditional. They value family connections and stability. Having a fiancé would help secure their confidence." "So you want me to pretend to be in love with you?" Amira asked, raising an eyebrow. "I want you to be yourself," he corrected. "Just engaged to me. Your authenticity is what caught my attention. It's what they'll respond to." Amira stood up suddenly, pacing the room. "This is crazy. I deliver food. I don't know anything about your world." "That's precisely why it could work," Karim insisted, watching her move. "You're genuine, unaffected. Something rare in my circles." She stopped at the window, staring out at the city lights. "My mother's treatment costs are increasing," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "And my dream of opening a community cafe." 10,000, Karim offered, sensing her wavering resolve. "Plus whatever you need for appropriate attire." Amira found herself in a world she'd only glimpsed through delivery windows. The exclusive boutique Karim had chosen for her makeover was all gleaming mirrors and hushed voices, with price tags that made her dizzy. Her team of stylists descended upon her like elegant birds, measuring, suggesting, and transforming. The neckline should be modest but flattering, the lead stylist mused, holding up a midnight blue gown. We want to convey sophistication without ostentation. Karim sat in a corner typing on his phone, occasionally glancing up to approve or dismiss selections. His presence was both commanding and distant, like a director orchestrating a play. Amira caught his reflection in the mirror as she emerged in the first dress, and for a moment, their eyes met. "Too formal," he said, but his lingering gaze suggested something else. "We need to strike a balance between elegance and approachability." The next few hours passed in a blur of silk, chiffon, and careful instructions. Karim had arranged for etiquette lessons, compressed into crash courses that left Amira's head spinning with rules about place settings and conversation protocols. "Remember," the etiquette coach emphasized, "you're not just representing yourself. You're representing the future, Mrs. Al-Rashid." The word sent an unexpected shiver down Amira's spine. In the privacy of the boutique's dressing room, she studied her reflection. The woman staring back wore a perfectly tailored emerald dress that made her olive skin glow. Her dark hair had been styled in elegant waves, and subtle makeup enhanced her natural features. "Are you clean up well?" Karim commented when she emerged, his tone professional but his eyes betraying a hint of appreciation. "Is that your attempt at a compliment?" Amira challenged, falling naturally into the unfiltered honesty that had caught his attention in the first place. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "We should practice our story. The investors will want to know how we met." They settled into the boutique's private lounge, surrounded by shopping bags and the remnants of their afternoon tea. Karim had prepared a detailed backstory. They'd met at a charity event 6 months ago, where Amira had been volunteering. Her community work and genuine spirit had captured his attention, and a whirlwind romance had ensued. "It's close enough to the truth to be believable," he explained. "Your authenticity is our greatest asset." "And what about the real you?" Amira asked, surprising them both with her directness. "The man behind the perfect suits and calculated responses." Karim's facade cracked slightly, revealing a flash of vulnerability. "The real me is irrelevant. What matters is securing this deal." "That's where you're wrong," Amira countered, leaning forward. "These investors you're so worried about, they're looking for authenticity, remember? They'll see through a performance." Their conversation was interrupted by Karim's phone. His expression darkened as he read the message. "Sophia Chen is attending the dinner. I assume that's not good news?" "She's perceptive and suspicious by nature." Karim stood, pacing the lounge. "She's also one of our board members and has never approved of my leadership style." Amira watched him, noting how his shoulders tensed. "You're afraid she'll see through our arrangement." "We need to be perfect," he insisted. "Every detail, every interaction must be flawless." "Perfect is boring," Amira stated, standing to face him. "Real couples have quirks, inside jokes, small disagreements. If you want this to work, we need to be more than just perfect." Karim stopped pacing, studying her with new interest. "What do you suggest?" "Let me help you loosen up a little. We have 3 days until the dinner. Instead of memorizing scripts, let's create genuine memories. Take me to your favorite places in the city. Show me the real Karim Al-Rashid." "That's not necessary for the arrangement," he protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "It's essential," Amira insisted. "When Sophia Chen asks me what made me fall in love with you, I need to have real moments to draw from, not rehearsed lines." Their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Karim nodded, reaching for his phone. "I'll clear my schedule for tomorrow afternoon." "Good," Amira smiled, gathering her bags. "And Karim, wear something casual. No suits." As she left the boutique, Amira couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing with fire. The weight of the expensive clothes in her arms reminded her of the reality of their arrangement, but something else was taking root. A curiosity about the man behind the mask, and a dangerous desire to see it slip. In his car, Karim watched her walk away, his carefully ordered world shifting ever so slightly on its axis. For the first time in years, he found himself looking forward to tomorrow, and that thought terrified him more than any business deal ever had. The Dubai afternoon sun cast long shadows across the streets, as Karim's driver pulled up to a modest cafe in an older part of the city. Amira, who had been skeptical when he insisted on picking her up, raised an eyebrow at their destination. True to her demand, Karim wore dark jeans and a casual button-down shirt, an outfit that somehow made him look both more approachable and more striking. "This is your favorite place?" she asked, taking in the weathered facade and simple wooden tables. "My grandfather used to bring me here," Karim replied, leading her inside. Before tech vision, before the empire, this was where he'd meet with friends and dream up his innovations. The interior was cool and dimly lit, filled with the aroma of cardamom and coffee. Old men played backgammon in corners, their quiet conversation creating a gentle backdrop. The owner, an elderly man with kind eyes, lit up at the sight of Karim. "Young Al-Rashid, it has been too long," he exclaimed, embracing Karim with genuine warmth. "And who is this lovely young lady?" "This is Amira, my—" Karim hesitated for a fraction of a second. "My fiancée." "Ah, finally!" The old man beamed. "Your grandfather would be so pleased. Come, come. Your usual table is waiting." As they settled into a corner booth, Amira noticed how Karim's posture had softened. Here, away from the gleaming towers and corporate pressures, he seemed almost like a different person. "So, this is the real Karim Al-Rashid," she mused, accepting a cup of traditional coffee. "The one who drinks coffee in old cafes and remembers his grandfather's dreams. This place reminds me of why we built Tech Vision," he admitted, his fingers tracing patterns on the wooden table. "It wasn't about power or wealth. It was about innovation, about creating something that could change lives. What happened to that vision? Reality happened. Market pressures, board expectations, the constant need to prove myself worthy of the legacy." He paused, surprising himself with his candor. "Sometimes I forget why I started." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a feast, dishes Amira recognized from her own childhood, served without pretense on mismatched plates. "Tell me about your dreams," Karim said suddenly, watching her savor a bite of kunafa. "The community cafe you mentioned, what would it be like?" Amira's eyes lit up. "A place where everyone feels welcome, where students can study without being pressured to buy expensive drinks, where local artists can display their work, where elderly neighbors can gather for conversation. Not just a business, but a heart for the community." "Like this place," Karim observed. "Exactly, but with a modern twist. We could have coding classes for kids, workshop spaces for entrepreneurs." She caught herself, blushing slightly. "Sorry, I get carried away sometimes." "Don't apologize for passion," he said softly. "It's refreshing." The afternoon stretched into evening as they really talked about their hopes and fears. Karim shared stories of growing up under the weight of expectations, while Amira spoke of her struggles to balance dreams with reality. As the sun began to set, Karim suggested they walk through the old marketplace. The narrow streets were coming alive with evening activity, strings of lights twinkling overhead. They passed shops selling spices, textiles, and antiques, their shoulders occasionally brushing in the crowded alleys. "My mother would have loved you," Amira said suddenly, stopping to examine a display of traditional jewelry. "She always said authenticity was the rarest gem of all." "Would have?" Karim asked gently. "She's still with us. But her illness—" Amira's voice trailed off. "The treatments are experimental, expensive. That's why I took this arrangement. It could cover months of care." Without thinking, Karim reached for her hand. The gesture was instinctive, comfort offered without calculation. Amira's fingers intertwined with his, and for a moment neither spoke. The spell was broken by the flash of a camera. They turned to see a young man hurrying away, phone in hand. "Paparazzi," Karim explained, his professional mask slipping back into place. "I should have been more careful. Is it bad that they saw us?" "No, it's actually perfect for our story. But," he looked down at their still joined hands, "we should head back." The drive home was quiet, both lost in thoughts about the line between pretense and reality. Outside Amira's apartment building, Karim helped her from the car. "Tomorrow, we have the private engagement photo shoot," he reminded her. "The story will break in the morning papers." "No turning back then," Amira said, searching his face for something she couldn't name. "No turning back," he agreed, his voice carrying a weight that hadn't been there that morning. As his car pulled away, Amira touched her hand where his fingers had been. In his penthouse later that night, Karim found himself doing the same, wondering when exactly the lines of their arrangement had begun to blur. The morning sun had barely touched the Dubai skyline when Amira's phone erupted with notifications. Her face, alongside Karim's, graced the cover of every major news outlet in the region. "Tech Tycoon's Secret Romance," one headline screamed. Another read, "Al Rashid heir finally tamed." Amira stared at the images, hardly recognizing herself. The casual photos from their walk through the old market had been interspersed with official engagement portraits taken in a whirlwind session the previous evening. In those polished images, she stood beside Karim, both of them resplendent in traditional attire, the epitome of a power couple bridging modernity and tradition. A text from Karim flashed on her screen. "Are you ready?" Before she could reply, a knock on her door startled her. She opened it to find an impeccably dressed woman with a tablet in hand. "Ms. Hassan, I'm Layla, your personal assistant for the duration of your engagement," the woman said briskly. "We have a full schedule today, starting with a breakfast meeting with Mr. Al Rashid's PR team." Amira blinked, overwhelmed. I need to get ready." "Your outfit has been prepared," Layla said, gesturing to a garment bag Amira hadn't noticed. "We leave in 20 minutes. As Amira changed into the elegant but understated day dress, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman staring back was polished, poised, and looked every bit the part of a tech mogul's fiancé. But her eyes betrayed a mix of excitement and terror. The day passed in a blur of meetings, fittings, and carefully orchestrated public appearances. By afternoon, Amira found herself in Karim's office at Tech Vision headquarters, her head spinning from the crash course in being a public figure. "How are you holding up?" Karim asked, his voice gentle despite the tension evident in his shoulders. "I feel like I've stepped into someone else's life," Amira admitted, sinking into a plush chair. "Is it always like this for you?" "You get used to it," he said, but his eyes suggested otherwise. "The dinner with the Peterson group is tomorrow night. Today was just preparation." A knock interrupted them, and Karim's assistant entered with a troubled expression. "Mr. Al Rashid, Ms. Chen is here. She's demanding to see you and your fiancé." Karim's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Send her in." Sophia Chen swept into the office like a force of nature, her sharp gaze immediately locking onto Amira. "So, this is the woman who's captured our elusive CEO's heart," she said, her tone a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "Sophia," Karim greeted, his voice carefully neutral, "may I introduce Amira Hassan, my fiancé?" "Amira, this is Sophia Chen, one of our board members." Amira stood, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Chen." Sophia shook her hand, her grip firm. "Quite a whirlwind romance you two have had. I must say we were all surprised by the announcement." "Love has a way of surprising us all," Amira replied, channeling the confidence she'd observed in Karim. "Indeed," Sophia said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "And what is it that you do, Ms. Hassan?" Before Amira could respond, Karim interjected. "Amira has been involved in community development projects. In fact, her insights have been invaluable in our discussions about Tech Vision's future initiatives." "Is that so?" Sophia turned her attention back to Amira. "I'd love to hear more about these insights." Amira felt the weight of both Karim and Sophia's gazes. This, she realized, was a test. Drawing on her experiences and the passion she'd shared with Karim in the cafe, she began to speak. "I believe that technology should serve the community, not just the elite," she said, growing more confident with each word. "Tech Vision has the power to bridge gaps, educational, economic, social. Imagine coding boot camps in underserved areas or tech incubators for local entrepreneurs. We could be fostering the next generation of innovators right here in our own backyard." As she spoke, she noticed a shift in Sophia's expression, from skepticism to grudging interest. Even Karim looked at her with a new appreciation. "Well," Sophia said after a moment, "it seems you found someone with more than just a pretty face, Karim. I look forward to seeing how these ideas develop." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and I'll see you both at the dinner tomorrow. I'm sure it will be illuminating." After Sophia left, Karim let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "You were brilliant," he said, genuine admiration in his voice. "I was terrified," Amira admitted. Is she always like that? Sophia's built her career on being 10 steps ahead of everyone else. She's not easily fooled. Karim moved closer, lowering his voice. We'll need to be extra careful around her. Maybe, Amira said slowly, we need to stop trying to be so careful. Maybe the best way to convince her, to convince everyone, is to just be ourselves. Karim studied her face, conflict evident in his eyes. Ourselves, he repeated softly. I'm not sure I even know who that is anymore. In that moment, with the city sprawling below them and the weight of expectations heavy on both their shoulders, Amira realized that their charade had become something far more complicated than she'd ever anticipated. The line between pretense and reality was blurring, and she wasn't sure if either of them knew how to stop it. The evening of the Peterson Group dinner arrived with an air of electric anticipation. Karim's penthouse had been transformed into a showcase of understated luxury with soft lighting and elegant floral arrangements, creating an intimate atmosphere despite the spectacular city views. Amira arrived early, her heart racing as she stepped out of the elevator. She wore a stunning gown in deep burgundy, its modest cut balanced by intricate beadwork that caught the light with every movement. Karim, impeccable in a tailored black suit, met her at the door, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of her. You look, he started, then cleared his throat. You look perfect. You don't clean up so badly yourself, Amira replied with a nervous smile, falling into their now familiar banter. As they did a final walkthrough of the penthouse, Karim quietly briefed her on the key players who would be attending. Remember, John Peterson is old school. He values tradition, family. His daughter Emily is more progressive. She'll be the one asking the hard questions about Tech Vision's future. And Sophia Chen, Amira asked, adjusting a flower arrangement absent-mindedly. She'll be watching our every move, Karim said grimly. Stay close to me, and if you're unsure about anything, I'll be myself, Amira finished for him, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. That's what got us this far, isn't it? Before Karim could respond, the first guests began to arrive. The penthouse quickly filled with the murmur of conversation and the clink of champagne glasses. Amira found herself at the center of attention, gracefully fielding questions about her background and her relationship with Karim. So tell me, Emily Peterson said, cornering Amira by the window, how did you manage to capture the heart of Dubai's most eligible bachelor? Amira glanced across the room, catching Karim's eye. He was deep in conversation with John Peterson, but seemed acutely aware of her position. I didn't try to capture anything, Amira replied honestly. I think we both just recognize something in each other, something real in a world that can feel very artificial. Emily's eyebrows rose, impressed by the candid response. And what do you think about Tech Vision's future? I hear you have some innovative ideas. As Amira began to share her vision for community-focused initiatives, she noticed Sophia Chen watching her intently from across the room. The board member's gaze was calculating, assessing every word and gesture. Meanwhile, Karim was navigating his own delicate conversation with John Peterson. Your company has shown remarkable growth, Karim, the older man said, swirling his whiskey. But I have to admit I've had concerns about its long-term stability. A man in your position, well, let's just say that a solid family foundation can make all the difference in the business world. I couldn't agree more, Mr. Peterson, Karim replied smoothly. Meeting Amira has changed my perspective on many things, both personally and professionally. She seems like a remarkable young woman, John mused. Though I have to wonder, how does someone from her background fit into your world? Before Karim could answer, a commotion near the bar caught everyone's attention. One of the servers had tripped, sending a tray of glasses crashing to the floor. Without hesitation, Amira rushed over, kneeling to help the flustered young man clean up the mess. It's all right, she said softly, ignoring the startled looks from the other guests. Accidents happen. Are you hurt? The simple act of kindness, so at odds with the carefully curated atmosphere of the evening, created a ripple effect through the room. Karim found himself moving towards her, drawn by an impulse he couldn't quite name. Here, let me help, he said, kneeling beside Amira and the server, heedless of his expensive suit. For a moment, the power dynamics in the room shifted. Guests watched as the high-powered CEO and his fiancée worked together to clean up the mess, their actions speaking louder than any rehearsed speech could have. Well, John Peterson said, a note of approval in his voice, I think that answers my question rather definitively. As the evening progressed, Amira found herself in an intense discussion with Emily Peterson about the role of technology in education. Karim, catching snippets of their conversation, felt a surge of pride at Amira's passionate and articulate responses. "Your fiancé is quite impressive," Sophia Chen murmured, appearing at Karim's elbow. "Almost too good to be true, wouldn't you say?" Karim turned to face her, his expression carefully neutral. "Amira has exceeded all my expectations," he said truthfully. "She challenges me to be better both as a person and as a leader." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Interesting. I look forward to seeing how this partnership develops." As the last of the guests departed, Karim and Amira found themselves alone in the penthouse, the tension of the evening slowly dissipating. They stood side by side at the window, looking out over the glittering city. "We did it," Amira said softly, her reflection pale in the glass. "You did it," Karim corrected, turning to face her. "Amira, I don't know how to thank you." For a moment they stood in silence, the air between them charged with unspoken emotions. Amira looked up at him, searching his face for something. A sign, perhaps, that this was more than just an arrangement. "Karim, she began, but was cut off by the chime of his phone. The spell broken, Karim stepped back, reaching for his device. His face lit up as he read the message. "It's from John Peterson. He wants to move forward with the deal." Amira smiled, ignoring the strange ache in her chest. "That's wonderful news." "Yes," Karim agreed, but his voice lacked the enthusiasm she expected. He looked at her, conflict evident in his eyes. "Amira, there's something I need to tell you." But before he could continue, the elevator chimed, and Layla stepped out, tablet in hand. "Mr. Al-Rashid, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development with the Shanghai branch. They need you on a video call immediately." Karim hesitated, looking between Amira and his assistant. I have to take this." "Amira, can we talk tomorrow?" Amira nodded, suddenly feeling very tired. "Of course, good night, Karim." As she rode the elevator down to the lobby, Amira couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. The line between pretense and reality was blurring, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for what lay on the other side. The days following the dinner were a whirlwind of activity. News of TechVision's partnership with the Peterson Group dominated business headlines, and Karim found himself thrust into a series of high-stakes meetings and press conferences. Amira, meanwhile, was swept up in a flurry of charity galas and social engagements, her every move scrutinized by the media and society columnists. It was nearly a week before they had a moment alone together, meeting for a casual lunch at a trendy rooftop restaurant. Casual in name only, as paparazzi lurked at every corner. "I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to talk," Karim said as they settled into their seats, his voice low to avoid being overheard. "Things have been crazy," Amira finished for him, a small smile playing on her lips. "I've noticed. I think I've given more interviews in the past week than I've had hot meals." Karim's expression softened with concern. "How are you holding up?" "I'm managing," she replied, her fingers tracing the stem of her water glass. "It's different than I expected. Everyone wants to know about my childhood, my family, my hopes for the future. I'm trying to stick as close to the truth as possible, but sometimes it feels like you're losing yourself," Karim finished, understanding in his eyes. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their appetizers, a beautifully presented array of local delicacies. As they began to eat, Amira noticed Karim's distracted demeanor. "What is it?" she asked. "You seem preoccupied." Karim hesitated, then leaned in closer. "The deal with the Peterson Group is moving forward, but there's been a complication. They want to appoint a representative to the board, someone to oversee the integration of our companies." "That doesn't sound unreasonable," Amira mused. "Why does it have you so worried?" "Because they want to appoint Sophia Chen." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Sophia's suspicions about their relationship could jeopardize everything they'd worked for. "What are we going to do?" Amira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Karim's hand moved across the table, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that felt both rehearsed and startlingly genuine. "We stick to the plan. We show everyone, that what we have is real." The warmth of his touch sent an unexpected thrill through Amira, and she found herself wondering, not for the first time, How much of this was still just an act? Their moment was interrupted by a commotion near the restaurant's entrance. A group of reporters had managed to slip past security, cameras flashing as they approached the couple's table. "Mr. Al-Rashid, Ms. Hassan, can you comment on the rumors about a rushed wedding? Amira, is it true that you're already expecting?" The barrage of questions left them both stunned. Karim's security team moved swiftly to intervene, but not before Amira caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd, her younger sister Layla, looking shocked and hurt. As they were ushered out of the restaurant and into a waiting car, Amira felt her carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. "Karim," she said, her voice shaking, "my family, they don't know about any of this. The arrangement, the engagement, they think it's all real." Karim's face paled as he realized the implications. "Amira, I'm so sorry. I should have thought about—" "No," she cut him off, her tone sharper than she intended. "I should have. These are my choices, my lies. And now—" She trailed off, looking out the window at the city rushing by. The car ride back to Karim's penthouse was tense, both of them lost in thought. As they entered the private elevator, Karim finally broke the silence. "We'll figure this out," he said, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "Whatever you need to make this right with your family, just say the word." Amira turned to face him, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "That's just it, Karim. I don't know what's right anymore. This whole thing, it started as a business arrangement, but now—" She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I think I'm falling for you. For real." The confession hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and fear. Karim's expression was unreadable, a storm of emotions flickering behind his eyes. Before he could respond, the elevator doors opened to reveal a surprising scene. Sophia Chen stood in the penthouse foyer, flanked by two stern-looking men in suits. "Ah, the happy couple," Sophia said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything. We have some matters to discuss, Karim. Matters that concern the future of TechVision and the truth about this little charade you've been playing." Karim instinctively stepped in front of Amira, his posture protective. "Sophia, what is the meaning of this?" "Oh, I think you know," she replied, her smile cold. "Did you really think you could fool everyone forever?" It's time for the truth to come out. As the tension in the room reached a breaking point, Amira realized that their carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down around them. The question was, would there be anything real left standing when the dust settled? The tension in Karim's penthouse was palpable as Sophia Chen stood before them, her piercing gaze moving between Karim and Amira. The two men flanking her remained stoic, their presence a silent threat. "I've been doing some digging," Sophia began, her voice cool and measured. "It's amazing what a skilled investigator can uncover. For instance, the curious timing of your whirlwind romance coinciding perfectly with our investors' concerns about stability." Karim's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. "Sophia, whatever you think you know—" "Oh, I know quite a bit," she interrupted, producing a tablet from her bag. "Like the fact that Ms. Hassan here was working as a food delivery driver just weeks before your sudden engagement announcement. Quite a meteoric rise, wouldn't you say?" Amira felt her heart racing, but she stood her ground. "My background isn't a secret. Karim and I have been open about my humble beginnings." Sophia's smile was razor-sharp. "Humble indeed. But what about the substantial transfer of funds to your personal account, or the fact that your mother's medical treatments were suddenly paid for in full?" The color drained from Amira's face. She looked to Karim, who appeared equally stunned. "How did you—" "As I said, a skilled investigator can uncover many things," Sophia continued. "The board is very interested in understanding the nature of this arrangement, especially given the Peterson deal's dependence on your supposed stability." Karim stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You're overstepping, Sophia. My personal life is not the board's concern. It is when it affects the company," she shot back. "We're on the verge of the biggest deal in TechVision's history. Do you really think I'll let your little charade jeopardize that?" The room fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on all of them. It was Amira who finally broke the tension, her voice soft but determined. "You're right," she said, causing both Karim and Sophia to turn to her in surprise. "This started as an arrangement. A business deal, nothing more." She took a deep breath, steeling herself. But what it's become, that's real. The feelings, the connection, the vision we share for the future. None of that is fake. Karim stared at her, a mix of admiration and fear in his eyes. Amira, you don't have to. Yes, I do, she cut him off gently. I'm tired of pretending, of hiding behind half-truths and carefully crafted images. She turned to face Sophia directly. You want the truth? Here it is. I fell in love with Karim, not because of his money or his position, but because of who he is when all of that is stripped away. The man who remembers his grandfather's dreams, who wants to use technology to lift up communities, not just profit from them. The room fell silent as Amira's words hung in the air. Even Sophia seemed taken aback by the raw honesty of her confession. Karim, his usual composure cracking, moved to stand beside Amira. She's right, he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. This may have started as a business arrangement, but it's become so much more. Amira has shown me a different way of seeing the world, of leading this company. If that jeopardizes the deal, then so be it. I won't sacrifice what we've built, what we could build, for the sake of appearances. Sophia's expression shifted, a mix of skepticism and begrudging respect crossing her features. A touching speech, she said, her tone softening slightly. But the board won't be swayed by declarations of love. They need assurances, concrete plans. Then we'll give them that, Karim replied, a newfound determination in his voice. Amira's vision for community-focused initiatives, her ideas for bridging the technology gap, these aren't just pet projects, they're the future of tech vision. A future that could align perfectly with the Petersons' values and expand our reach in ways we've never imagined. As Karim spoke, laying out a passionate vision for the company's future, Amira felt a swell of pride and affection. This was the man she had glimpsed in quiet moments, the leader she knew he could be. Sophia listened intently, her calculating mind clearly working through the implications. After a long moment, she sighed. You realize this changes everything? The board will need to be fully briefed, and the Petersons... We'll tell them the truth, Amira said firmly. All of it. If they value authenticity and vision as much as they claim, they'll understand. The tension in the room gradually began to dissipate, replaced by a cautious sense of possibility. As Sophia and her associates prepared to leave, she paused at the door. I hope you know what you're doing, she said, her gaze moving between Karim and Amira. For both your sakes. After they left, Karim and Amira stood in silence, the weight of their confessions and the uncertainty of their future hanging between them. Did you mean it? Karim asked softly, turning to face Amira. What you said about falling in love. Amira met his gaze, her heart pounding. Every word. But Karim, I need to know. Was it just me? Or do you... Before she could finish, Karim closed the distance between them, his hands cradling her face as he kissed her, with a passion that left no room for doubt. When they finally parted, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Amira, he whispered. I think I have from the moment you stood in my doorway, challenging every assumption I'd ever made. As they held each other, the Dubai skyline glittering beyond the windows, both knew that the real test was yet to come. Their truth was out, but the consequences, both personal and professional, remained to be seen. The future of tech vision, their relationship, and the delicate balance they'd struck between two worlds now hung in the balance, waiting to be redefined. The following days were a whirlwind of activity as Karim and Amira faced the fallout from their revelations. The Tech Vision Board called an emergency meeting, demanding explanations and assurances. The Peterson Group, initially shocked by the truth, requested time to re-evaluate their position on the deal. Amidst the corporate chaos, Amira faced a more personal challenge, reconciling with her family. She invited her mother and sister, Layla, to Karim's penthouse, determined to explain everything. As they sat in the living room, the city sprawling below them, Amira took a deep breath. Mom, Layla, I owe you both an apology and an explanation. Her mother, looking frail but determined, reached out to take her hand. We're listening, Habibti. Amira recounted the entire story, the initial arrangement, the gradual shift in her feelings, and the recent revelations. As she spoke, she watched the emotions play across her family's faces. Shock, hurt, and eventually, understanding. I never meant to deceive you, Amira finished, tears in her eyes. I got caught up in something I didn't fully understand, and by the time I realized how I truly felt, it seemed too late to come clean. Layla, who had remained silent throughout, finally spoke. Do you really love him, Amira? Or is this still part of some game? I love him, Amira said without hesitation. More than I ever thought possible. And he loves me, the real me, not some polished version he thought he needed. Her mother squeezed her hand. Oh, my dear, love rarely follows the path we expect, but honesty, that must always be your foundation. As they talked late into the night, Amira felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Her family's forgiveness and support meant everything to her, reinforcing her determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Meanwhile, Karim was navigating his own set of complications. The board, while skeptical, was intrigued by the potential of Amira's community-focused initiatives. Karim spent hours in meetings, passionately outlining a vision for TechVision that balanced profit with social responsibility. One evening, as Karim returned home exhausted from another day of negotiations, he found Amira waiting for him. She had transformed a corner of the penthouse into a cozy replica of the old cafe where they had first truly connected. What's all this? He asked, a smile tugging at his lips despite his weariness. I thought we could use a reminder of where this all began, Amira said, leading him to a small table laden with traditional dishes. Of who we are when all the corporate pressures fade away. As they ate, they shared the events of their respective days. Karim spoke of the board's cautious interest in their new direction, while Amira recounted her family's journey towards acceptance. I've been thinking, Karim said, setting down his coffee cup, about the future, our future. This whole experience has shown me that I don't want to lead TechVision the way my father did. I want to create something meaningful, something that truly makes a difference. Amira leaned forward, her eyes shining. Tell me more. Your idea for community tech centers, what if we expanded on that? Not just in Dubai, but across the region. We could partner with local organizations, provide resources and training. It's not just about creating the next big app or gadget. It's about empowering people to shape their own technological future. As Karim spoke, his passion igniting, Amira felt her heart swell. This was the man she had fallen in love with, visionary, compassionate, and unafraid to challenge the status quo. It won't be easy, she cautioned. The board, the investors, they'll want to see how this translates to profit. Then we'll show them, Karim said, determination in his voice. We'll prove that social responsibility and business success aren't mutually exclusive, and we'll do it together. Their planning session was interrupted by a call from Sophia Chen. Karim put it on speaker, his hand reaching for Amira's. The Petersons have made a decision, Sophia said without preamble. They want to move forward with the deal, but with some modifications. They're intrigued by your new vision, Karim. They want to be part of it. The relief in the room was palpable, but Sophia wasn't finished. There's more. The board, they've agreed to appoint Amira as head of the new Community Innovation Division. They believe her background and vision will be crucial in making this new direction a success. As the call ended, Karim and Amira sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly, they began to laugh, a release of tension, joy, and sheer disbelief at how far they had come. So, Amira said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes, I guess we're really doing this? Karim pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. We're doing this, all of it. The company, the future, us, together. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms with the twinkling Dubai skyline as their backdrop, both felt a sense of rightness settle over them. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles both personal and professional, but they would face it as partners, their love forged in the crucible of truth and shared vision. The fairy tale engagement might have been a fabrication, but the foundation they now stood on, built on honesty, mutual respect, and a shared dream for the future, was unshakably real. 1 year had passed since the tumultuous events that had brought Karim and Amira's relationship into the spotlight. The Dubai skyline glittered in the evening light as they stood hand in hand on the rooftop of TechVision's newly inaugurated Community Innovation Center. The space around them buzzed with energy, young entrepreneurs showcasing their projects, children excitedly exploring coding workshops, and community leaders engaged in animated discussions about the future of technology in their neighborhoods. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Amira mused, her eyes scanning the vibrant scene before them. Karim squeezed her hand, his smile warm and genuine. "It's more than I ever dreamed possible, and it's all because of you." The past year had been a whirlwind of challenges and triumphs. The transition hadn't been easy. There were board members to convince, skeptics to win over, and an entire corporate culture to reshape. But with every obstacle, Karim and Amira had grown stronger, both as individuals and as a team. Under Amira's leadership, the Community Innovation Division had flourished. They had opened centers not just in Dubai, but across the Middle East, providing access to technology education and resources in underserved areas. The impact was already visible, a new generation of innovators emerging from unexpected places, their ideas shaped by local needs and global possibilities. Karim, too, had undergone a transformation. No longer the reserved by-the-book CEO, he had become a visionary leader, unafraid to challenge conventional wisdom in pursuit of a greater purpose. The Peterson deal, far from being jeopardized by their honesty, had blossomed into a partnership that pushed both companies to new heights of innovation and social responsibility. As they made their way through the crowd, stopping to chat with participants and admire projects, Karim and Amira were approached by a familiar face, Sophia Chen. "Impressive turnout," Sophia commented, her tone genuinely approving. "The board is very pleased with the results we're seeing, both in terms of community impact and investor interest." "It's been a team effort," Amira replied, her posture relaxed but confident. The antagonism that had once existed between them had gradually given way to a grudging respect and eventually a collaborative partnership. "Indeed," Sophia agreed, "which is why I'm here with a proposition. We want to expand this model globally. Are you two up for the challenge?" Karim and Amira exchanged a look, a world of understanding passing between them. "We'll need to discuss the details," Karim said, "but I think it's safe to say we're interested." As Sophia moved away to mingle with other guests, Amira turned to Karim. "Global expansion. That's a big step." "It is," he agreed, "but I think we're ready. Together we can make this vision a reality on a scale we never imagined." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Amira's family. Her mother, looking healthier than she had in years, embraced them both warmly. Layla, now interning in TechVision's marketing department, grinned as she showed off the latest app, developed by one of the center's youth programs. As the evening wound down, Karim led Amira to a quiet corner of the rooftop. The city stretched out before them, a tapestry of lights and possibilities. "Amira," he began, his voice soft but filled with emotion, "a year ago I thought I knew exactly what my life would be, a path laid out by tradition and expectation, but then you came along and showed me a different way, a better way." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. "This time there are no cameras, no ulterior motives, just us and the truth of what we've built together." He opened the box, revealing a beautiful ring that combined modern design with traditional elements. "Amira Hassan, will you marry me? For real this time?" Tears welled in Amira's eyes as she looked from the ring to Karim's face, seeing in it all the love, respect, and shared dreams that had brought them to this moment. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." As Karim slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a deep kiss, cheers erupted around them. Their friends, family, and colleagues, the community they had built together, surrounded them with joy and congratulations. Later that night, as they stood on the balcony of their home, no longer just Karim's penthouse but truly theirs, Amira rested her head on Karim's shoulder. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "when I first agreed to this arrangement, I never imagined it would lead us here." Karim chuckled softly. "Life has a way of surprising us. I thought I was hiring someone to play a role, but instead I found a partner who challenged me to be better, to do better. We've got a lot of work ahead of us," Amira mused, "expanding globally, continuing to bridge the tech divide." "True," Karim agreed, "but I can't think of anyone I'd rather take on those challenges with than you." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms with the city they were working to transform spread out before them, both felt a profound sense of gratitude and purpose. Their journey had begun with a pretense, But it had led them to a truth far more powerful than either could have imagined. A love built on shared values, mutual respect, and a vision for a better world. The future stretched out before them, filled with possibilities and challenges alike. But together, Karim and Amira were ready to face whatever came their way, their love and shared mission lighting the path forward.